Hey, how's it going, Hamoud? How are you? Hi, I think your sound is maybe a little bit of a problem with the sound, Hamoud.
How are you?
Yep, I'm good. I can hear you now, but I think the sound is a little different. I think it's better now, maybe. Can you hear me okay? Hey, Liliana.
Hi, Farhan. How
How's it
about you?
going? Good, good, good. Everything's good?
All is good, yes.
Fantastic. And Hamoud, you're back, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you hear me?
I do, but your voice is like staying on. When I hear you, I hear, "Can you hear me?" You know, so the sound is a little off, man. It's your voice is
Breaking.
maintaining. Yeah, it's breaking. It's kind of staying. But if you refresh the Hangout link or the Hangout page, it'll get easier. Uh, and we also have a new person, Orabi. Orabi, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, thanks. Orabi, have we met?
No,
Okay.
the first class with you teacher.
Oh, fantastic. Where are you from?
From Jordan.
From Jordan, المملكة الهاشمية الأردنية.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Do
Welcome,
you do you
welcome.
speak do you speak Arabic?
No, I don't. I just know some words. I can
Yeah.
understand a little bit, and I know some words, but besides that, pretty good. So good to see you, Arabi. How long have you been using Colingo, if you don't mind me asking?
About 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks. Fantastic, fantastic. I've been teaching for about 3 months, so it's good to see new students. Give you a little bit of background about myself, Arabi. My name is Farhan. I live in the U.S. I'm 24, and I'm just I love doing this. So hopefully you guys can learn some new things. Hopefully we can learn new things from each other. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Gabriel, cara, tudo beleza?
Hello, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good, good, good. Good to see you again. Wow, it's a good class. We got all these we got Liliana, we have Humud we haven't seen in a long time. Gabrielle from before, and then Orabi, of course, new student for me. Welcome. So yeah, Liliana, I forgot to ask you how are things? Anything new? Did you do anything interesting?
Interesting. No, yesterday
Uh-huh.
I taught a Spanish class.
Yeah, I was going to join Liliana, but I was on the
Yes.
road. I was on the road. I was
And what
traveling.
happened?
Yeah,
You are traveling. You were
I'm
traveling.
traveling. I'm traveling. That's why.
Yes. No, we studied the future tense yesterday, and in the evening I did some exercise because I was in front of my computer for a long time, so I need
Yeah,
to relax my muscles.
exactly.
uh, and no, I get rid of some things and clean my bedroom and relax at home.
Fantastic,
A
fantastic.
normal day, a normal
Normal day.
relaxed day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those days. Robbie, what about you? Tell us about yourself. Where do you live in Jordan? Do you live in Amman, or do you live in another city, or what's uh, about yourself?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I live in the capital. It's Amman. I've been here for 6 years. My family live in Palestine. I came to Jordan to study at university.
Uh-huh.
I am now electrical engineer, and I am going to travel to UK to study their Master of Management.
Wow, congratulations, man. Fantastic.
Yes, but I'm 23 years old.
Nice, nice. So you're going to be when are you visiting the UK?
Uh, I want to first pass IELTS exam, then I will travel.
Uh-huh. Good, good, good. Yeah, the IELTS exam is kind of like the TOEFL. Are they? I think they're similar, the TOEFL and the IELTS exam, but I think IELTS is more English schools, like for schools in the UK, and I think TOEFL is more schools in the United States. I'm not sure the difference though.
Yes, yes, right, you are right.
Uh-huh. Okay, cool. I've heard both of those exams. Have you signed up for a day of when are you taking the IELTS exam? Do you know?
I didn't sign up. When I feel ready, I will do.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's a good strategy. Hamoud, what about you? How is life in Jeddah?
It is great. But first, what about my connection? Is it okay right now?
Yeah, right now it's perfect. Mia fil mia right now. Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
100%, 100%. So now I can hear you perfectly. And Gabrielle, man, how's life in Recife? Long time no see. Man, Gabrielle, can't hear you, man. Are you muted? Not muted. Let's see.
He may have a bad connection.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea either. We'll see. We'll see.
Cara? What is cara? Sorry.
I think cara means like man, like amigo, guy.
In
Yeah,
Portuguese.
in Portuguese. Yeah, yeah.
Ah.
I don't know, Liliana. I'm just making up words, maybe. It's probably a bad word. I just called him something bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
But when I pronounced it. But okay, guys, fantastic. Well, welcome to class, guys. Oh, he's back now. Gabriel's back. Hey, Gabriel, welcome back, man.
He's mute.
Oh, he's muted now. Okay.
Hello,
Yeah, man. What's up?
I'm in trouble with my internet connection.
Uh-huh. But how's life, man? You've been working on that project. You're busy all the time now.
Yes, I'm here because I'm organizing a conference here in Recife, and it will start next Wednesday this week.
Uh-huh.
And we will receive a lot of foreigners, uh, keynote speakers, and attendees, etc. So
Uh-huh.
I'm here to train a little bit before talking to them.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. So you're organizing it and you have some time, so you're joining. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Always good to see you guys. So, guys, let's get started with an overview of the class. So today we're going to be talking about intensifiers, right? Intensifiers are a class of words in English that we use to do three things, okay? So intensifiers is like the umbrella, and underneath this umbrella are three groups of other kinds of words, right? So we have emphasizers, we have, after emphasizers, we have amplifiers, and we also have downtoners, right? So emphasizers, amplifiers, and downtoners. These are the three categories of words that are under the main category of intensifier, right? These words might not mean anything to you right now. We're going to review the three types, and we're going to see how we use them in conversation. Then, the second part of our class, in the article, we are going to be looking at the financial history of daylight savings time, DST, right? So DST is something that we do in the U.S. and in many other countries in the northern hemisphere, because of the summer and the winter, the days get shorter. We have less hours of daylight outside, and as a result, they actually change the time. They pull the time forward or backwards, depending on what season. So right now in the United States, in November, the clocks fall back 1 hour, right? So it goes back 1 hour. So if it was 8 o'clock in October, in November it's 7 o'clock at that same time. So it goes back 1 hour. And in the spring, in March, we go forward 1 hour. So depending on the time before, if it was 3 o'clock in let's say February, in March we go to 4 o'clock. It's a way to take advantage of as many hours of daylight as possible, especially during the winter months, because winter months the days are very short. You know, in a few weeks the days here will be 9 hours, and it's not it's not productive for people, so they decide to change the time that way, right? So we'll look at the financial history of daylight savings time, why it was implemented, what it does it actually help, stuff like that. Hey Wilson, how's it going, man? Welcome.
Hello, Farhan. How are you, man?
Good, man. It's been a long time, man. Where you been?
Yeah, it is.
I think you were busy with work and stuff, right?
Yeah, at home I don't have internet connection, so yeah, I can't connect in nights.
Sure. No worries, man. No worries. I have classes in the morning now, so we'll be able to use those. So, okay, guys, let's take a look at these intensifiers, right? So, what is an emphasizer? This first category of words, an emphasizer, right? So, an emphasizer is a word in English that allows you to, add meaning. It makes an adjective stronger. Okay. So let's say I'm talking about somebody, or let's say I'm talking about a dish, some food that somebody made, right? I could say, this is delicious, right? This is delicious. So the adjective is delicious. If I want to make that delicious stronger, if I want to say that it's really delicious, then I can say something like, it's extremely delicious, or it's really delicious, right? Or it's so delicious, right? These three words are very common in English. We use them to make adjectives stronger, right? Somebody's smart, okay, maybe he gets good grades, right? But the person next to him, his classmate, always gets an A+, right? He's really smart. He's not just normal smart, he's really smart, right? He's extremely intelligent. He's so smart, right? So words like this that make a word stronger, right, that make an adjective stronger, we call these emphasizers. So examples of emphasizers, like we saw right now, are really, extremely, right, and so, right? These three words we use a lot. We really use these words a lot, right? So I'm emphasizing that these are very common words in English, right? Could you guys go around and make a sentence, each of you guys, using an emphasizer? Just give me any example of a sentence with an emphasizer. Wilson, do you mind starting?
Okay. I really don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow.
I really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Fantastic. I really don't know. So you have no idea, right, Wilson?
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. What about Orabi? If you don't mind giving us an example.
Yes, he's extremely giant.
He's extremely. I'm sorry. What was the last one?
Giant. Huge.
Could you spell that, Orabi? Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, I'm just trying to see what kind of adjective it is.
Sorry.
Okay. So somebody's really big.
No. Okay.
Giant. Yeah, giant. Right. Exactly. Somebody's really big. He's so. That's a great example of a word, Orabi, that giant in of itself means something very big, right? So we actually don't say he is extremely giant, even though giant is an adjective, right? It's a great example of how English does not make sense sometimes, right? So when we say, we actually can't say he's extremely giant, we would have to say something like he's extremely big or he's extremely tall. We have to give those descriptions because giant actually does not use emphasizers. I can't think of any other words that are in that category. But it can, see, the thing with giant is it can be an adjective and it can also be a noun, right? You can say those giants are running around, right? Maybe big people in a soccer field, in a football field, they're running around. You can also say those giants are running around in the sense that they are very, it's a noun that, you know, those people are giants, right? So giant actually doesn't work. So we could say he is extremely tall, right? He's extremely big. Those ones would work, right? Does that make sense, Arabi? I know it's an exception to the rule. Yeah, it's an exception to the rule, but I'm glad you found it. Liliana, what about you?
Your classes are really useful for me.
Awesome. Your classes are really useful for me, right? So we see really, and we see the adjective useful. And Gabriel, last but not least.
I'm really overwhelmed until the end of the year.
I'm really overwhelmed in the end of the year or during the end of the year?
Until the end of the year.
Until the end of the year. Fantastic. I'm extremely overwhelmed until the end of the year, right? So you're going to be super busy.
Exactly.
Overwhelmed? Oh, yeah. So let me write that down, actually. Well, that's a great question. Being overwhelmed as an adjective means you have so much going on, right? You're overwhelmed. There's too much going on. You're super busy, right? Super busy to the point where you might actually, it might be bad for your health. So if somebody says I'm overwhelmed, it usually means that they might be struggling to sleep on time and take care of themselves because they're so busy working, you know, or doing whatever. Yeah, so overwhelmed. Yeah. So guys, any questions about emphasizers so far that we use them to make strong? Yeah, I'm sorry, Liliana, go ahead.
Very is an emphasizer.
Yeah, exactly. Very is an emphasizer. Absolutely. Highly, right? So
highly.
Because very or highly, right? So the thing with these two words, though, right? Very and highly are used for specific types of adjectives, right? So we can say, for example, he is very tall instead of he's extremely tall. She is very smart, right? Very is used almost like really. The two words are pretty similar in terms of how we use them, right? Extremely, on the other hand, is used for, I'm sorry, highly, on the other hand, is used for certain types of adjectives, right? So we could say he is highly intelligent, right? We can't say he is highly smart, right? So it's random. Like, you know, English is weird because there's these rules that you don't use certain types of emphasizers with certain types of adjectives. We also can't say things like he's highly big or he's highly tall, right? But intelligent is one that works with highly, right? Highly intelligent, highly respected. Highly respected. Somebody's highly respected. So those work, but for certain adjectives only.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys, absolutely. Any other questions about these emphasizers, guys?
No.
Okay, I think we're good. Orabi and Gabrielle look good. So, okay. So then, yeah, go ahead, Gabrielle. Yeah.
No, that's very common, you know.
Yeah, the word very is very common.
Yes.
Yeah. Emphasizers are used a lot, and whenever we talk about different types of English words, right? We have Taceddin. Taceddin efendim, hoş geldiniz. Neredesiniz? Nasılsınız?
Teşekkür ederim. İyiyim. Siz nasılsınız?
Sağ ol. So Taceddin, I was wondering. Well, actually, before I should say, welcome to class. Right? We're talking about emphasizers and intensifiers and words like that. So we are actually starting with amplifiers right now, right? So when we look at amplifiers, guys, right, we saw that emphasizers make a word stronger, make an adjective much stronger, right? But amplifiers, what they do is they enlarge a word's meaning, right? So think of it as an amplifier is making the meaning of a word much bigger than it is, right? It's making the word more complete, right? So I actually gave you guys one of the amplifiers. Completely is an amplifier, right? So let's say something is 5%, 10%, 50%. When you want to make the meaning of a word very whole, very full, we use amplifiers because they make the meaning of the word, the adjective, much bigger, right? It's not about saying, giving it more strength, giving it more force. It's about making it bigger. So there are 3 examples that we use of amplifiers, right? Very common in English, right? One of them is completely, right? And many of these amplifiers we use when we're talking about understanding something or realizing something. It's mental almost, right? Because you can have a mental picture of something that is okay but not complete or not 100%. So we use these amplifiers to say that mental things are complete, and also about, for example, mistakes that people make and actions that people do. So the one example is if I say something like, I completely understand the situation, right? I completely understand the situation. It's not just I understand the situation. I completely understand it. I understand every aspect of the situation, right? So when we look
Is it an amplifier?
Yeah, so completely is an example of an amplifier, right? So it makes the meaning more, it makes the adjective more 100%, more whole, more full, right? Whereas with emphasizers, we were just giving strength to the word. We were saying very or really or extremely, giving strength to that word, right? And it takes a little bit of practice also when we look at some of these types, right? So completely is one example of an amplifier, right? Another example of an amplifier, guys, is a word like undoubtedly. Okay, this is kind of a complicated word. We don't use it a lot in common conversation, but it shows up in like literature and all that kind of stuff. Undoubtedly. If something is undoubtedly apparent or undoubtedly clear, right? Undoubtedly means that you have no doubt, right? So undoubtedly, no doubt. You have no doubt that something is the case. You are 100% sure that something is the case, right? You have no doubt about it, right? So undoubtedly is one. And then we also have totally. Totally is another example of an amplifier because we say, for example, I totally made a mistake, right? Somebody made a mistake. So totally is used a lot for actions. You can also say totally for understanding something. I totally understand the problem. I completely understand the problem. But totally is also used for actions. So, man, I totally made a mistake when I divorced my wife. You know, like you're regretting something, right? I made a 100%. It was my fault, my mistake. I totally made a mistake, right? So these are the amplifiers that we look at, right? Completely, undoubtedly, totally, right? So let's go ahead and make some examples of these guys. Gabriel, do you mind starting with an example of an amplifier?
I completely understand your fault.
I completely understand your fault. So, yeah, I guess that works, right? I completely understand. Instead of fault, actually, Gabriel, it's a little bit better to say, I completely understand your mistake. Yeah, yeah. Because a fault is really like, it just happens, right? I mean, someone's fault. It's hard to understand, but a mistake can be understood as the reason behind the mistake, you know, all the other problems about the mistake. Yeah, completely understand your mistake. Fantastic. Humud, welcome back, man. Could you give us an example of a sentence with an amplifier? Completely, undoubtedly, totally. These are some examples.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed?
Yes.
No, actually, that was just an adjective.
What about I was extremely overwhelmed last 2 weeks?
Yeah, that works very well, but remember, extremely is an emphasizer, right? So the difference between emphasizers and amplifiers is slight, but it's there. So an amplifier makes a word more complete, more 100%. Makes an adjective more 100%. Whereas an emphasizer gives strength to the word. So extremely, very, really, right? Those give strength. Amplifiers are words like completely or undoubtedly, or totally, right? Those are some of these examples. You weren't there for the part when I explained it, so you might have a question, but see if you can make one. See if you can make an example of a sentence with an amplifier.
I was very tired last week, or I'm very tired today.
Okay, very, once again, is an emphasizer, but okay, you can say, for example, I'll give you the example that I shared with the others. I can say, you know, I totally made a mistake, right? I totally made a mistake. It was 100% my mistake. So that is an amplifier, right? Very is still an emphasizer. So we have a little bit of difference between the two groups, right? So I totally made a mistake, right? Nice job, though, Hamoud. I know it's difficult to catch up when the internet is bad. Liliana, one more example from you, please.
Undoubtedly, it will rain today.
Undoubtedly, right? It will rain today. Undoubtedly. I know it's a little. It's
undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly, Liliana.
Undoubtedly.
Silent B.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. Undoubtedly, exactly, fantastic. Because we have that D-O-U-B-T is a really difficult kind of syllable, right? Undoubtedly. So great job.
Undoubtedly. Okay.
Great job. Yeah, absolutely. Undoubtedly. Right? Fantastic. Great job, Liliana. What about Orabi? One more example of an amplifier, please.
Yes. I totally know the solution.
Fantastic. I totally know the solution, right? I have a complete understanding of the solution. I know how to solve the problem, right? Fantastic. Great job there. And Tajuddin, what about another example?
I lost my job undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly, I lost my job, right? So undoubtedly, guys, we actually put at the beginning of a sentence mostly, right?
Yes,
Usually
undoubtedly, I have lost my job.
Yeah, maybe you did something so bad, Tajuddin, that you know that you lost your job, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be a good example, right? Undoubtedly, I lost my job, right? So, guys, any questions about these amplifiers? No questions? Seems like we're okay.
What?
Yeah, Hamoud, go ahead.
What is the meaning of amplifiers?
Amplifiers are words that make an adjective more complete, more 100%.
Okay, it is clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But
there is a device or function in music player, MP3 player, like amplifier.
Yeah, exactly.
Similar?
Yeah,
the meaning?
Yes, something that amplifies is increased, right? When we say amplify something, it's increased. It increases the volume, for example. So can you, like, when you have a stereo, you have an amplifier with your stereo, right? Sometimes it makes the music louder, right? It increases the volume. So this is why we're saying we're increasing the meaning of a word, making it more complete, right? So it's very similar
maybe
situation here.
The low sounds, maybe amplifier increase the low sound to hear.
Exactly. Amplifiers increase the sound, increase the low sound to make it a much higher sound. Yeah, absolutely.
Farhan?
Yeah.
I have a question. What is the difference if I say I totally made a mistake or I completely understand your mistake?
So if you understand a mistake, you didn't make the mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody makes a mistake, like let's say I kill somebody, right? Then and I tell you, man, Liliana, I totally made a mistake, right? Because now I'll be in jail for like the rest of my life, right? I totally made a mistake, right? So that would be something that the person who did something would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely understand can be anybody else, right? I completely understand his problem, or I completely understand your mistake. Like maybe I tell you that guy was bad to me, so I killed him, right? Now you have an example. Oh, okay, now I completely understand your mistake, right?
Okay, got it.
Although it wouldn't make sense. I'm just using a very silly example, right? But yeah, so completely would be for anybody listening, and the totally would be the person who made the mistake himself.
I have to say, it's my fault.
It's my fault. Yeah, I totally made a mistake. It's all my fault, right? Sometimes we hear in English people say, it's completely my fault. It's totally my fault also. I've heard that before. Yeah. Like maybe you have an accident on the street and you are the person who hit the other car. It's totally my fault.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So let's look at the downtoners, right? The last group we have here is downtoners, right? And when we have downtoners are words that they do the same thing as kind of what they sound, right? Downtone, it's downtoning something. It's decreasing the meaning of an adjective. It's decreasing the power of an adjective. It's almost like the opposite of an amplifier, right? So we can think of it as there are some downtoners, for example, in English that we use a lot. We say things like kind of, right? I kind of understand your situation, right? I don't completely understand it. I kind of understand it. Maybe I understand a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe more than a little bit, but I don't understand it 100%, right? So I kind of understand something, right? So when we look at downtoners, the first one, and we use this a lot, kind of is used a lot. Kind of is the first example, right? Another example of a downtoner that we use is somewhat, right? He is somewhat of an expert in cooking, right? So if I'm talking about somebody, right, he is somewhat of an expert in cooking, right? He's not a 100% expert. If I tell him make me, something delicious, maybe he won't be able to. He's somewhat of an expert. He might know, he might not know, how to do those things.
He's not master. He's not master or apprentice.
Is that a master or an apprentice?
He's not master or apprentice.
What do you mean by that?
He's master but not very experienced.
Oh, okay, I see. So with this cooking example, yeah, he might be somebody who was trained, right? But who doesn't he's not the same level of an expert. Yeah, absolutely. Yo, Gabriel, man, I think there's some sound in the back, dude. Do you mind muting yourself, man?
No.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So, yeah, Tajuddin. So, just like we said before, with the with the master and the apprentice situation, the master knows a lot. The apprentice is still learning, right? Somewhat of an expert. So the apprentice could be somewhat of an expert. The master is an expert. The master knows everything, right? So that's a good way of thinking about it. And the other type of example, guys, that's really good is the other example of a downtoner that we use a lot is a word like slightly. Slightly and somewhat sometimes we use interchangeably. We can use one in the same place of the other, right? Sometimes, however, we don't have that case, so we need to be careful. But slightly is used a lot in English, right? For example, if you're eating something, right? I feel slightly full. I don't feel completely full. I don't feel, totally full. I feel slightly full because, I was able to... Yeah, Humud, I'm writing them down. I just want to talk about them before. So slightly is when we have, for example, you're not at that level yet. You're slightly full. You're not 100% full. You're just somewhat full. All of these words are they mean the same things, right? I slightly understand the math homework, right? I kind of understand the math homework. I couldn't explain it to you because I only kind of understand it, right? So those are some of the downtoners that we use in English that are common, right? Any questions, guys, about how we make them, or?
Barely is a downtoner too. If I say barely, I barely understand.
Yeah, it is. Great job, Liliana, right? Barely is another one, right? I barely understand this homework, right? I barely understand Arabic, right? I know so little. I don't know anything, right? I barely understand a language. I barely understand French, right? Something like that.
What about rarely? Is it the same? Rarely.
Rarely, Rarely means that it's not frequent. Something that only happens once in a long time. So it's actually a different meaning, right?
Yeah.
A different meaning, actually. But that's a good question. Hardly, Tajuddin. Hardly.
Adjective.
It's good. No, it's an adverb, and it works. It works. It works as an example of a downtoner, right? So I hardly understand English. Like if you talk very slowly, maybe I can understand, right? Hardly is another example, Tajuddin. Great job.
Is that amplifier? Hardly?
No, hardly is a downtoner.
I hardly hear you.
I hardly hear you. Yeah, yeah, that's a great example. So Tajid or Liliana, hardly, even though it has the word hard, it's not making something strong. It's actually the opposite. It's making. If you say hardly, you're saying barely. Like I can just barely, something like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So even that's another reason we love English, right? Everything makes sense in English, right? Yeah. Hardly, right? It's a great example. Hardly and barely. These are other downtoners. So let me ask you guys once more, right? Tajuddin, let's start with you, and we'll go all the way to the left to Gabrielle. Tajuddin, let's make an example of a sentence with a downtoner.
I kind of understand the article.
I kind of understand the article. Yeah, fantastic. You read something, you might not understand all of it. You didn't completely understand it. You kind of understood the article, right? Fantastic, fantastic. Orabi, what about you?
I slightly do my job.
I slightly do my job. Okay. Good question, Orabi. Good sentence. But remember how when I said slightly and somewhat are kind of these crazy downtoners that we use some of them with some situations and other ones with other situations? Slightly, we don't use it for something like I slightly do my job, right? You can say, Orabi, I do my job somewhat, or I somewhat do my job. That's an example. But what's even more common, you can say barely or hardly, right? I barely do my job. Like maybe you go to work and you sit and just read a newspaper all day, right? That's somebody who barely does anything, right? Doesn't work, doesn't care, barely does something, or hardly does something. I hardly care about my job, right? I barely work when I'm in the office, right? So those are actually a little bit better, Orabi. I know it's confusing in English because there are so many types of examples, right? Slightly, we can say for, like, really for understanding things, slightly works really well. I slightly understand what you were telling me. You can also say it for feelings. He feels slightly happy, right? Slightly is used a lot for feelings. I feel slightly happy. I feel slightly sad or somewhat sad, right? So feelings and things like that, like after you eat, you feel slightly full. Those are a little bit better for slightly. Does that make sense, Arabi?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I know sometimes it's confusing. It's hard because there are so many examples that don't work. But if you have questions, let us know. You know. And Liliana, what about you? Using a downtoner.
Sorry, I was mute.
No.
I hardly speak Italian.
Fantastic. I hardly speak Italian. Barely, right? Maybe like 5 words or something very small, right? Yeah, I hardly speak Italian. Humud, what about you?
I somewhat of like watching TV.
Yeah, good. I somewhat like watching TV, right? It's not something you do all the time. It's just you do it. I somewhat like cooking, right? I kind of like cooking. I somewhat like watching TV, right? Fantastic, fantastic. Good job. Gabrielle, what about you?
I somewhat know what I'm gonna do this afternoon.
Yeah, fantastic. I somewhat know what I'm going to do this afternoon, right? Or you can also say, I know somewhat what I'm going to do this afternoon, right? So you have some idea, right? But you're not 100% sure, right? Good job, guys. Any questions about these downtoners?
can I say there is a slightly different between both of them, for example?
Slightly different, right? So we won't say slightly different because slightly is an adverb, right?
Difference?
There's a slight difference.
A slight different. Can you type?
Yes, absolutely. Slight difference. So the noun here would be difference, and the slight is actually working as an adjective here.
Slight difference.
Hay una poca diferencia.
Uh-huh.
Right? There's a slight difference. So there's a little bit of a difference between these two people, for example.
Can we say slightly different?
Yeah. So you can also say, for example, Liliana, I think this actually might be more helpful to you, right? Tajuddin, thanks for that. Slightly different. Those two people are slightly different from each other. Or these two cars are slightly different, right? Or these two models, these two dishes are slightly different. When you're comparing two things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Humud, yes, you can definitely say, I hardly do my homework. Yeah. So when it comes to work, when it comes to tasks, we use hardly and barely a lot. I hardly do my work. I barely do my homework. I barely get sleep at night, right? Something you're doing that you barely, like maybe 1 hour a night. I barely get sleep at night, right? So these are other examples, guys. Any other questions, guys, about these grammar topics?
No.
I kind of understand downtowners.
You kind of understand downtoners. Fantastic, fantastic. Well, my goal is to help you completely understand downtoners, Tajuddin. So let me know if you have any questions, right? So guys, let's take a look at this article, right? The History of Daylight Savings Time. It's kind of a long article. I'm going to skip a lot of the stuff, so when I screen share, guys, please follow my screen share. Here is the article. It is from Fox Business. So we are reading about the financial history of daylight savings, right? So, okay, let's start with here. Nearly 100 years ago, this daylight saving was created for practicality, but it has caused astonishing confusion along the way, right? Astonishing confusion. This is a great example of an amplifier. Astonishing confusion, right? What do you guys think astonishing means?
Something that surprised you?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Orabi, I think. Orabi, go ahead. Or who was it, Tajuddin? Whoever spoke. I'm sorry, I couldn't see the screen.
Very.
Yeah, it's another way of saying a lot of, or a very, right? A high amount of confusion, right? A very high level of confusion, right? So it was made 100 years ago. It was created for practicality. It was created because we wanted a solution to a problem. But it has caused so much confusion along the way, right? Implemented to save energy costs and be a boon to the economy. A boon, guys, is an example of something that helps the economy, right? So it was implemented to save energy and help the economy, but many people argue that daylight savings time has been more of a detriment financially, right? Do you guys know what detriment means?
Yes, it's like a decrease.
Harmful.
Tajuddin, say that again. Harm. Yeah,
harm.
harm and decrease are both right, you know? Liliana, you're right as well, right? Something of a detriment is something that harms or takes away from something, right? It decreases something, right? So, made 100 years ago, it had good reasons, but people argue that it's actually, financially, it's not a very good thing, right? From the very beginning, the basic goal of daylight saving was to move the hours of daylight to better match with the hours of human activity, right? Seize the daylight was what we are really thinking about, right? Because if it's 4 o'clock outside at night, and it's night outside, that people don't go out at night, right? People don't go shopping at night if it's dark outside. So that's why they decided to make the days longer, right? By saying, for example, that now there are more hours of daylight, people will be outside longer, and it's going to get darker 1 hour later, right? That's the whole idea, right? So and does it actually work? That's the question. It doesn't really, right? While in Paris in 1784, Benjamin Franklin, he's on the $100 bill in the U.S., very famous guy. sarcastically noted in a letter that nature isn't accommodating to our modern schedules. Franklin understood the financial benefits of early daylight in the summer, provided that we all got to sleep in. So from as long ago as 1784, people were thinking about how can we save time and use that time so that there are more hours of daylight outside, right? We're going to skip all this. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so for a while in the middle of the early 20th century, people didn't like it, right? People hated daylight savings. But then the New York City actually decided to start and create they started to remake daylight savings time. So they made it something new again after people didn't like it, right? And people started hating it, right? People started hating it again, and now they have a lot of problems. And in 1966, Congress created a 6-month daylight savings period for states. So it took 200 years for people to figure stuff out. Finally, in 1966, the U.S. Congress said, okay, now everybody's going to do daylight savings. Some people did it, some people didn't do it. Some states did it, some states didn't do it, right? There are only 2 states that don't do this now. So Hawaii and Arizona are the 2 states that don't have any daylight savings, right? And what are the benefits? So in 1973, there was a huge oil problem, and they found that as a result of daylight savings, they were able to save 3 million barrels of oil per month, right? So that was one benefit. 3 million barrels is a lot of oil. But, you know, there are also problems since then. So in 2007, we've seen that international trade has actually led to airlines having to pay more than $150 million a year to adjust their schedules because they're flying from countries that have daylight savings to countries that don't have daylight savings. Causes a lot of problems, right? So it's a longer article, guys. I wish we had more time, but it's a little bit more involved article. Really, the understanding of daylight savings is you change the time to make people have more hours of the day, right? They don't do it in tropical countries. They do it in Northern Europe, Canada, the U.S., colder countries where we have very short days during the winter, right? So that's kind of the idea of daylight savings time. I was going to say, I only have one question for you guys because we have a bunch of people. Do you guys think this daylight savings is a good solution? Does it actually save money from what we looked at, right? Let's just imagine your situation, imagine your country, right? In the spring, you change the time to be 1 hour ahead so that instead of the sun setting at 8 p.m., the sun now sets at 9 p.m., right? So people still work until 5 o'clock, right? But now they have 4 extra hours until the sun sets. So before it would be just until 8 o'clock, so 3 hours. Now it's 4 hours. And in that extra hour, maybe they're going to go shopping, maybe they're going to go to restaurants, and over the course of a year, that 1 hour time slot adds up to a lot of money because people are still outside, right? People are still buying and selling and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's the idea of daylight savings. And then in the cold days in the winter, like now, you decrease the hour so that the day stays longer. Instead of the sun, the sun normally sets in the cold times, it's that you get up earlier, right? So instead of 7 o'clock, now you're waking up at 6 o'clock, really, and you're spending your time at work, you come home, and before the sun sets, you're still maybe outside buying and selling and going out and spending your money, right? That's the whole idea. But does it make sense? I think I confuse you guys because it doesn't make sense. It confuses us too, right? Ken, do you want to start? Or, what do you guys think about this situation?
Yeah, I've never experienced daylight.
What is daylight?
Daylight is the day, like the sunlight in the day, we call that daylight, right? So the light that we see outside during the day is daylight. So saving daylight is a way to say you're saving the amount of time.
Yes, but how did they...
Yeah? Go ahead, Hamoud.
How did they save daylight longer?
They just changed the hour of the clock. So in the spring, you add 1 hour.
How did they make
you simply change the time on the clock, Humud, right? So the entire country changes the hour by 1 hour. Except for those two states, everybody increases the hour in the spring, and in the fall we decrease the hour. So yesterday, 2 o'clock, today is now 1 o'clock. This is going to stay until spring. So once we change in November, we keep it until spring. So 6 months you have daylight savings, the normal, and then the other 6 months you don't have daylight savings, right? So, for example, the summertime, when it's 7 o'clock at night, in the winter time, that would actually be 6 o'clock at night, because you have 6 months chunk daylight savings and 6 months of no daylight savings. And the day that they change, everybody changes their clock 1 hour, either ahead 1 hour or behind 1 hour. That's how we do this, daylight savings. I know Saudi Arabia doesn't have it. I know tons of countries don't have it. So that's why it's confusing.
We have summertime application.
You guys have it?
We are using in Turkey. We are using it in Turkey.
Yeah. Is it like, does it work well in Turkey, or are people confused by it? Does it save money?
I'm not sure, but it seems to me it may work.
It may work, yeah.
Because we get up 1 hour early.
Yeah.
In winter.
Yeah.
And we use more daylight. It may work, but especially the changing of time, it can cause some problem.
It does.
First day of the changing, on the first day of the changing time, it can cause problems. You can be late for the work, for the airport, or an exam. They can come back later. We can adapt, or we don't have any problems after the changing time.
Absolutely, absolutely. It causes problems that first day, right? So it's the first Sunday in November. The first Sunday in November, everybody changes their clock 1 hour behind, right? People forget. I mean, they keep the old time, and they show up to things, 1 hour late, right? So because they they don't change their clock, so 6 o'clock is actually 5 o'clock, right? And they show up late 1 hour. So people make mistakes all the time when it comes to this, right? Ken, so you were saying something. I'm sorry, Ken. What were you saying?
Yes, I've never experienced summertime and daylight saving time, so I think it's okay without the daylight saving time here, because kind of latitude is not so high in northern Europe. So the summertime and wintertime, kind of sunrise and sunset, it's not so huge like northern Europe. And I heard I read the article in different class. It's bad for the health, because human is not made for that. All of a sudden, one time, maybe some people suffer the sleeping disorder or more high heart attack rate. So personally, I don't want to use daylight saving time here.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense, right? Sometimes we see these problems, health problems, people who can't sleep, now they have to change their schedule 100%. Yeah. Gabriel, what about in Brazil? I don't think you guys have this.
Yes, we have.
Oh, you guys have it. Sweet. What happens?
But not in my region,
Oh.
Only the south and southeast. Yeah, it's very annoying because you use it to have it in the northeast, but it's very annoying because you have to get up earlier.
Yeah.
But I think it works because they really save money.
Yeah, so then in Brazil, I guess the idea is that you are saving money doing this, right?
I think it works.
Because people spend less time, for example, maybe heating their homes or doing stuff like that, right? So it saves energy costs, things like that. Because you go to sleep earlier, or you sleep that one less hour, you use 1 less hour of heat, maybe. I don't know how it works, right? But people
here
save money.
They argue that it saves energy.
Electricity, right?
Yeah, electricity, yes.
Yeah, because you're sleeping an hour early, so you're not that 1 hour of light you're not using. I guess.
Exactly.
I guess that adds up, right? Hamoud, what's your reaction to this? Do you understand what we're talking about, or is it still a little confusing?
No, it is clear.
It's clear, But you guys don't have it in Saudi, right? You guys,
No, we don't have it.
You guys don't have it in Saudi Arabia, yeah. So have you experienced it maybe outside Saudi Arabia? Did you visit any other countries?
No, I haven't been outside Saudi Arabia.
So, do you think it will help? Do you think it would save money if people go to sleep 1 hour early or wake up because you're not using electricity?
Yes, because the power electricity will be off for 1 hour.
Yeah, yeah. And for millions of people, maybe that adds up, right? Maybe that adds up to some savings. That's at least what the government says here. Liliana, what about Colombia? What's the case there?
Here, we had there was a time when we had to everyone had to change their clock 1 hour ahead because there was I don't know if I can say that to save energy because there was a detriment or a shortage.
There's a shortage, There's a shortage of energy,
Yeah,
or energy shortage,
Yes, I think maybe 3 years ago. And yes, it worked. But we have to. The problem that's here in Bogota, for example, most of the students start studying at 8, and the buses collect them at 6, between 6 and 7 a.m. And at this time, they have to get up very early in the morning, and was a little dangerous because when the bus school collect them, it was still dark. But anyway, the government set up this rule for I think maybe 4 or 5 months. But yes, it could help to the economy at this time. But we haven't had any situation like this in the last 4 years.
So they did it for a while, but then they stopped after a while.
Yes, and they stopped.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
It was a hard time for
us.
us.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially students or people that have to go to work, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or stuff like that is difficult. Yeah. Orabi, I don't know if Jordan has this. I don't think Jordan does.
Yes, the government used to use this system, but nowadays they don't use it. I don't know about, but they talking about saves money like that.
Saving money specifically with the energy, right? It could save a lot of money, maybe.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, guys. Yeah, I know. Like for example, in South Asia, like my parents, their country, India, Bangladesh, those countries, they don't use this at all. There's no daylight savings, like zero. It's never been tried. It would be a disaster, I think. Can you imagine, like India, like 100 million people forget to change their clocks? 10% of the country shuts down. Yeah, I mean, but they have energy problems. They have a lot of energy problems in India, unfortunately. So they might need something like this in the future, you know, to save energy, to save money. But anyway, guys, so unfortunately we couldn't talk for too long about this article. But did we have any questions about amplifiers or intensifiers, emphasizers, downtoners, or from the article itself? Did we have any questions?
No, all is clear.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So with emphasizers, remember guys, those are words that give an adjective strength, right? So words like very, extremely, really, right? They give strength to an adjective. Amplifiers, like you're amplifying the volume of your stereo or your radio, amplifiers increase the meaning of a word, increase it so that it becomes more 100%, more full. So those are words like completely and totally and what was the last one, guys? I'm forgetting myself.
Yes,
undoubtedly. And undoubtedly really is kind of uncommon. We use it, but we don't really use it as much as we use, for example, completely and totally, right? So those two are much more common. And then with the downtoners, we are decreasing the meaning of a word. And with downtoners, we are saying things like kind of, I kind of understand. So you're not at 100% completion or completely, a little bit lower, 50% or 30% or 20%. I kind of understand, I somewhat understand, I slightly understand. He is slightly happy, she is slightly angry, right? Feelings, slightly we use a lot for feelings. And also, you guys gave good examples of hardly and barely. We use a lot for actions. I barely do my work. I hardly study for my exams, right? So those are some great examples. Any other questions, guys? Okay. I gotta head out, so hopefully the next time I speak to you guys, I'm in California. That's my plan. I'm driving today, so I'll be there soon, and look forward to seeing you guys at my classes later.
Thanks a lot for the class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take care, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.
See you later. Bye. Hey, how's it going, Humud? How are you? Hi, I think your sound is maybe a little bit of a problem with the sound, Humud.
How are you?
Yep, I'm good. I can hear you now, but I think the sound is a little different. I think it's better now, maybe. Can you hear me okay?
I was in front of my computer for a long time, so I
Yeah.
need to relax my muscles.
Exactly.
And no, I get rid of some things and clean my bedroom and relax at home.
Fantastic.
A normal day. A
Normal day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those days. Rabi, what about you? Tell us about yourself. Where do you live in Jordan? Do you live in Amman, or do you live in another city, or what's about yourself?
Yes, yeah, I live in the capital, it's Amman. I've been here for 6 years. My family live in Palestine. I came to Jordan to study at university. I am now electrical engineer, and I am going to travel to UK to study their Master of Management.
Wow, congratulations, man. Fantastic.
Yes, I'm 23 years old.
Nice. So you're going to be. When are you visiting the UK?
I want to first pass IELTS exam, then I will travel.
Good. Yeah, the IELTS exam is kind of like the TOEFL. I think they're similar, the TOEFL and the IELTS exam, but I think IELTS is more English schools, like for schools in the UK, and I think TOEFL is more. Hey, Liliana.
Hi, Farhan. How
How's it
about you?
going? Good, good, good. Everything's good.
All is good, yes.
Fantastic. And Humud, you're back, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you hear me?
I do, but your voice is like staying on. When I hear you, I hear, "Can you hear me?" You know, so the sound is a little off, man. It's your voice is
Breaking.
maintaining. Yeah, it's breaking. It's kind of staying. But if you refresh the Hangout link or the Hangout page, Humud, it'll get easier. Uh, and we also have a new person, Orabi. Orabi, how's it going?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, thanks. Orabi, have we met?
No,
Okay.
the first class with you teacher.
Oh, fantastic. Where are you from?
From Jordan.
From Jordan, المملكة الهاشمية الأردنية.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Welcome,
Do you
welcome.
speak Arabic?
No, I don't. I just know some words. I can
Yeah.
understand a little bit, and I know some words, but besides that, pretty good. So good to see you, Arabi. How long have you been using Colingo, if you don't mind me asking?
About 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks. Fantastic, fantastic. I've been teaching for about 3 months, so it's good to see new students. Give you a little bit of background about myself, Arabi. My name is Farhan. I live in the U.S. I'm 24, and I'm just I love doing this. So hopefully you guys can learn some new things. Hopefully we can learn new things from each other. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Gabriel, cara, tudo beleza?
Hello, man. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good, good, good. Good to see you again. Wow, it's a good class. We got all these we got Liliana, we have Humud we haven't seen in a long time. Gabrielle from before, and then Orabi, of course, new student for me. Welcome. So yeah, Liliana, I forgot to ask you how are things? Anything new? Did you do anything interesting?
Interesting. No, yesterday
Uh-huh.
I taught a Spanish class.
Yeah, you know, I was going to join Liliana, but I was on the
Yes.
road. I was on the road. I was
And what
traveling.
happened?
Yeah.
You are traveling. You were
I'm
traveling.
traveling. I'm traveling. That's why.
Yes. No, we studied the future tense yesterday, and in the evening I did some exercise.